Yeah, so Brian, what does the solar installation process entail? All the way from the beginning of the project to its finish.
Good question. Right, a lot of folks, it's a little bit of a mystery to understand what the process is. And as a full service installer, we handle everything from front to back. So, typically speaking, customers or potential customers come to us from um, through our website and want to inquire about how to learn more about solar for their home or business. Otherwise, a lot of referral business as well from happy customers sharing their friends, family, and neighbors. Then they talk to our inside sales team who would set an appointment with them. We do virtual appointments with our project developers where they would have the educational process to learn about what the current landscape is of solar here in the region and then be able to look at a proposal together and customize a system that works for them in their home. Then once they're ready to move forward, we have a simple agreement. We do the paperwork that also entails the utility documentation and any incentive documentation that we take care of on their behalf as well. And and then we schedule a drone survey where we're able to confirm the solar analysis we did up front via satellite imagery. And once we have the drone information back, our engineers process that and then go on site and meet with the homeowner to look at the structure of the home and their electrical system, and then identify their wiring runs, equipment placement, and then are able to get some customer input on things they might want to add or change or things like that as well. Once we have that information, we make a professional set of building plans to submit for the customer for their approval. And once they approve the plans, we submit that to the utility for permission from the utility. And after we have the permission from the utility, we apply for permits and the permitting from the local town. And sometimes that requires a building, electrical, and even a fire permit in some cases now. And once we have that, we're ready to install. They basically go in the scheduling queue, and then we're ready to schedule the installation. So that process takes, a couple months, typically speaking, and some can be quicker than others. It really depends on. It does depend on the homeowner a slight bit and their responsiveness, also the town and the utility and their responsiveness, and then some other parameters based on the system size and such as well. Once we have all those pieces in place and we're going to install, we have our team of installers would show up on the site, and usually, I think a typical install is, I would say, a couple days, 2 to 3 days, again depending on the scope and size. And there that we have a roof team that's installing the mounts, the rails, the roof boxes, and the wiring and the panels themselves on the roof, and then that wire that comes down to connect to their inverter and their electronics that really takes the power from the panels and makes it so our homes can use them. That's, typically speaking, the general process takes 2 to 3 months or so from contract to installation. After installation, we have the inspections, and then we submit that information to the utility for their final permission, and they can energize the system, which is the highlight of everyone's project, is being able to turn it on and start realizing that those energy savings and making their own power.
You mentioned doing a drone inspection and then also an in-person, inspection as well. What are you looking for when you do those inspections? Just to do you go at a certain time of day, for example, when it's sunny out, to see whether or not, you're correct in that, like, yeah, you're getting full sunlight on these parts of the roof and there's no shadows from other parts of the roof or trees or things like that. What are you looking for?
We're looking for the drone is really the quality of the roof. So really, the only high wind or heavy rain or snow would be a no-go zone for the drone. But otherwise, it doesn't need to be a sunny day. It's really to get high resolution images of the roof, and through those images, the drone software allows us to do really accurate measurements. So the software we use ahead of time is really accurate. We find it's accurate within an inch or so, and it gives us a good indication of the pitch, the scope of the roof, and some of the details on the roof. But the drone really hones in on that, allows us to see where any obstructions are, pipes, where the really hips and valleys and dormers come together, and we can get really accurate measurements, more like down to within even a less than an eighth of an inch. So we can really hone in on that design. That's when we come to the site. We have the design in hand on an iPad, so it can be manipulated. We can add panels, change the position, orientation of panels, and get the customer's feedback on that. Because one thing that, aesthetics are a big deal for our customers, and we take that seriously as well. And then same with the wiring runs and equipment placement, so they can get a nice picture, so to speak, of what their installation would look like at that site visit. But the drone really allows us to, you know, make sure that the condition of the roof and the type, if it's shingles, for instance, that they're in good condition and where we can live up to our warranties, or we might recommend re-roofing, things like this before that we installed. And then, the on-site, again, doesn't need to be certain weather conditions. It's mostly that has been done at that point, and it's more looking at the internal pieces, which is the framing of the roof structure itself and gathering that information, as well as the condition of the roofing, the electrical system itself, making sure that it's up to code. If there's any code violations, we need to bring those up to code.
At what point would you be able to tell if there are like some structural problems with the roof that might require you to do some re-roofing or something like that?
Yeah, typically we gather that information and we send it off to a structural engineer, which is a requirement for us to get permits, especially here in Massachusetts. So they'll send back all the calculations and a letter, either saying that the roof will support this particular solar system, or they'll make recommendations. If you were to reduce panels or move panels, then you would pass, or that the site would need a what we call a retrofit, which is structural improvements. A lot of times that's sistering of rafters, potentially building a knee wall to support the span of the rafters, or collar ties, things like that. There are structural improvements to be able to install the system as we spec'd it.
And then what about maintenance? What type of maintenance is required on solar panels in Massachusetts?
Great question. That seems to be, a common one as well, which we hear a lot. And what's great about solar, there's no moving parts, right? So there's no wear and tear items. The panels themselves and sitting on the roof don't require any maintenance. They basically are getting cleaned by the precipitation, be it snow or rain. So if we have a high pollen spring or summer, like that gets washed away. And so there's really no maintenance in terms of the system as we see it. The thing that we do need to make sure we have connectivity with the customer's internet, so the equipment's talking to the app, and then we have visibility over that, so we can do remote troubleshooting if there were to be some type of issue with the electronics. Typically speaking, electronics would be the most common failure point. We have a central inverter is the electronic system that we use, and then they have individual optimizers or module level electronics on the back of each panel that communicate with the inverter and with the monitoring system, so we can identify if there is any issues, and where that issue is as well.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about the monitoring system in how that works and what sort of issues you're able to see using the monitoring.
Man, they've come a long ways. I mean, the monitoring is really slick now. I mean, now it's any Wi-Fi device, so your mobile device, your tablet, and any desktop as well. You can see really everything that's going on with your solar system. There is some panel level monitoring as well that you can see, and we can see that on our end to identify if there are issues and where that issue is. But basically, as complex as you make the system, you can see everything your solar does. If you have a storage system, you can see the relationship with your batteries and how much storage is left in your batteries and how long that would last given the current usage you're making. You can see what you're using and what the house is using as well. So you get a really great indication of your whole energy system together in one place. And if you have an EV charger, you can also see that too. And there's some controls that you can have with your EV charging on time of use, and same with the batteries. There's a lot you can do with it depending on where you live, what utility you're in, and how complex your system has become.